Hey, what's up my people, IceRestrict12 here, and today I'm bringing you 5 amazing Yu-Gi-Oh tips that are gonna help you win games. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I got things to do. I know you got things to do. I know you're supposed to be doing something that you're not doing. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. But before we move on, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe, guys. If you like my content, let me know. If there's anything you want to see, let me know as well. Hit that thumbs up button and let's begin. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started. Now, tip number 1 is stop shotgunning your cards. Now, what does that mean? Shotgunning your cards basically means that you start activating trap cards or quick spell cards or effects before your opponent does anything. You sometimes want to wait and see kind of what your opponent is trying to do, and then you can activate some cards that are going to interrupt your opponent. So let me give you an example. So for instance, something like Rivalry of the Warlords. This card allows you and your opponent to control only one type of monster. So it is your opponent's turn. He or she drew a card. It's standby phase. Boom! You activate Rivalry of the Warlords. Wait a little bit, because now your opponent can kind of see the conditions that he has to play around now and make different decisions, as compared to if you would have just waited. Your opponent has no idea that's the card you have, so they might have played, you know, let's say they play the adventure token engine, so they're gonna start playing those cards. They're gonna go ahead and put that token on the field, which is fairy. Boom, you flip Rivalry of the Warlords. Well, now they're locked into fairies, and good luck. I mean, I'll be very surprised if they have another fairy in their deck. They might try to go, you know, if they're playing something like Phantom Knights, they might attempt to go into something like the artifacts, but that is going to be very hard because those are fairy as well. But with that being said, guys, do not shotgun your cards. Sometimes hold on to them a little bit longer, see what your opponent is going to do, and then activate those cards. Very well, guys, and the second tip I want to give you is, if you are able to, try to bait the hand traps. Especially if you have a card that you really want to resolve, you want to try to bait your opponent into activating his or her hand traps as soon as possible. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you're a virtual world player, right, and you really want to resolve a card like Pot of Desires, which you need to banish 10 cards to draw 2. Now, that is a very hefty price to draw 2 cards, so you better make sure that that card resolves. And if you have something in your hand like Emergency Teleport, you can choose to activate that Emergency Teleport first. Most likely your opponent will Ash Blossom that card, and now you know that when that resolves, now you can safely activate your Pot of Desires, knowing that you are going to be able to resolve it and draw those 2 cards. Now, of course, it depends on the game state. Emergency Teleport might be more important to you at that point, but if you really want to resolve one card and you have the ability to do so, try to bait your opponent into activating hand traps so the card that you really want to resolve actually goes through. Very well, guys, and the third tip I want to give you is, if there's a deck that you always lose to, which there is probably, because every deck is built in a way that it has its strengths, but it also has weaknesses, and then there's decks that completely take advantage of that. Think of a deck that relies a lot in the graveyard, and then your opponent plays a deck like the Gravekeepers that completely shuts down your graveyard. So yes, you will lose to that one deck a lot. It's just kind of, the way they're built. But if there's a strategy that you always lose to, play that strategy, understand that strategy, and it's going to give you a better chance at beating it. Now, I'm not telling you go and drop $1,000 on a Sorcerer deck because you keep losing to it so that you get to play the strategy. No, but you can download all these Yu-Gi-Oh simulators online, and as long as you have a computer, just download them. You can upload the decks or just add the cards manually yourself, play against players online, and just kind of understand how the deck works, because no deck is perfect. Now, there are decks that are better than others. We all know that there's a whole term for it, meta decks, but every deck has a weakness that you can explode. So if you, did I say explode? I meant exploit, sorry. So if there is a strategy that you always lose to, play it, understand it, and beat it. And moving forward, guys, tip number 4 is download Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron. Talking about software that's going to help you be a better Yu-Gi-Oh! player. Now, what Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron is going to do for you is it gives you access to so many deck lists around the world. People upload their decks there, and for instance, if you're in a meta where there's a lot of Phantom Knights, you can select a card like a key card of a deck like Phantom Knights or Breaksword, and then you can select decks using this card, and it'll give you access to so many deck lists using Phantom Knights that you are going to be able to kind of pick up their brain and see what they're playing, and you know what their train of thought is, you know what hand traps to watch out for when you play this deck, and what cards to negate or interact with when you play against these decks. So it just basically gives you access to the meta. You get to see what other people are playing. It also has a calculator where you can keep track of your life points for when you're actually playing the game. It has dice if you want to roll dice, or virtual coin if you want to flip a coin. So guys, Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron is just going to give you access to what the meta looks like. Definitely download it, keep it on your phone, and I promise you I'm not getting paid by Konami to say this, but their app is actually pretty cool. Now, the other thing it does for me is sometimes when I'm in a tournament and I'm trying to visualize, you know, what I want to side out and what I want to put in, instead of kind of remembering like, all right, what cards do I have in my deck, or going through them, I can just open the app. I have my list of my own deck in there, and it helps me visualize, all right, I'm going to take these 3 out and I'm going to put these 3 in. All right, so again, Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron, guys, do yourself a favor, download is going to help a lot. Alright guys, and for my last tip, if you drew a bad hand, do not show it. Now, what do I mean by that is your opponent might be just as nervous as you are, and you know, the tension and pressure might be on your opponent just as much as it is on you. So if you draw a bad hand, do not show it, because the moment you show your opponent that you have an unplayable hand or just a bad hand in general, you're opening the door for your opponent to play much more relaxed than he or she would if she thought you had a decent hand. Now, what do I mean by that? Sometimes I see players and they draw their hand and immediately go, oh man, here we go again, or man, this hand is trash, or something like that. That right there tells me, Jay, just play the game, my man. Everything you play is gonna go through. He or she drew a bad hand, and trust me, when I'm not under pressure, I make my plays are a lot better than when I'm under a lot of pressure. Remember, people make mistakes, so don't show your opponent that you have a bad hand. Let him or her play with that pressure on them. They might make a mistake, and you might be able to capitalize. Trust me, I've been there, and I'm pretty sure you've been there too, where you had a bad hand, and somehow your opponent made a mistake mid-combo and you actually ended up winning the game. So do not, it is true, poker face, man. Now, I'm not telling you bluff, because you're probably not that good of an actor. Most people are not. You can tell when someone's bluffing. But if you had a bad hand, just play the game. If you had a really good hand, same thing, just play the game, Alright guys, so with that being said, thank you again for watching my videos. If you enjoy my content, please go ahead and subscribe, give me a like. And I'm sorry guys, I haven't been able to post videos as often as I used to, but the adult life keeps you very, very occupied. Alright guys, so with that out of the way guys, thank you for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.